Shiva. Namaste to all of you that are going to be joining. This was a fairly last-minute.com affair. I had to do a whole lot of evening chores before I could be here. But it's a worthwhile discussion. It's a topic that needs to be broached. Namaste, dear Howard, brother. How are you? Sending you big love. Big love and blessings to anybody else that's going to be joining the show. I hope my missus got the message. Yes, she did. Making sure my lady love got my message saying that this is where I am in case she tries to call me. Whoops, I'm on a live, so that means my mom will probably try and call. I missed a couple of calls from my mom the last 24 hours, so we're expecting a call. I should have sent her a message. But yeah, this topic of lucid dreams and astral and etheric projection is very close to my heart. And it's one of those things that I'm always seeing people talking about. And most of the people that are talking about it are reading about it. They're talking about what they've read about, which firstly is ridiculous as a notion to me. I mean, it's all good and well to talk about things that you read about. But what if you talking about the things that you've read about is filling the airspace with chatter about something that other people have read about, and the actual people that have experienced these things aren't talking about it because there's just so much chatter about it everywhere. You see the dilemma this can cause. This is what's happening, unfortunately. So I've come to blow this story wide open and point out a couple of obvious things that people can notice. Any of you that have had experiences will probably relate to the things I'm going to say very closely. Those of you that have read books about it might leave with more questions than answers, which is good. Questions are always better than answers. But it's time to end the nonsense. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to blow it all up. Blow it up, baby. It's been long enough that people have been misled. And the concept of what astral projection is, dreaming, lucid dreaming, etheric projection. I actually started podcasting, for those of you that don't know me, because of a comment made by a so-called guru, a very famous one. I think it was Satguru. I'm not going to be sure that it was him, but I believe it was him. But it wasn't just him. It was a whole lot of people. And they were talking about, etheric and astral projection. These are just similes. And I was so offended by such a misrepresentation of something that is well known in the Western schools of occultism that I had to step up and say, no, enough is enough. This joyride ends here. Time to start looking at what the differences really are. And I was in a group for astral projection just yesterday, and there was a conversation happening between people. And there were two extreme opposing viewpoints being expressed, both of which holds an inherent truth to it, but neither of which I believe is completely true in itself. And just let me put this out of the way for a moment. I've lit my frankincense and myrrh. Get a little bit of holy smoke going, ladies and gentlemen. Holy smoke is the way. So yeah, the idea of lucid dreaming. Now, lucid dreaming has been written about a lot. And there is so-called science that everybody's quoting, which is rather cute. Actually, what there is a whole lot of different researchers, all with different opinions, and some opinions are more popular than other opinions because, well, when you stick with the popular narrative, it's easier to get your PhD. There it is. So the so-called students, the so-called researchers have a vested interest to get their peer review results, right? And in order to do that, they've got to stick with the obvious common narrative. And so this is like a bit of a dilemma when it comes to the real science, unfortunately, is has not been figured out as to what dreaming really is. We know that it uses the same part of the brain when we are awake. We know that the parietal lobes basically shape the experience of a dream and give it texture and context and dimension in the same way that it does so with this sense of physical reality. This we know because they can study the EEGs and they can see the same parts of the brains are acting in what seems to be a similar way. But as to where dreams happen, well, there are lots of different opinions regarding this. And a little while ago, I blew open a story. Give me 1 second. I blew open a story regarding the physics of DNA. And we were looking at the quantum field, and we were looking at some phenomena which is called quantum tunneling, which is a phenomena that is observed within DNA, right? And we know that the quantum tunneling can collapse fields, right? And we have these fields that are operating in multiple dimensions simultaneously, right? This is basic field theory, quantum field. Namaste, Hollow Bone Hawk. How are you? Lovely to have you here. Sorry, I didn't call you sweetheart. It was running from the shower to the Josh, to the this, to the dogs, to everything else to get onto this live in time. It was a bit of an almost last minute thing, but somebody actually asked me to explain this. So I figured I may as well do it in a live, because if I'm going to spend time explaining something, it's going to take me like 20 minutes or half an hour. And that's in a Telegram group. I may as well just stick it here for everybody's attention. So the idea of quantum tunneling and superposition and the relationship between quantum tunnels and superposition is something that a lot of researchers have discovered. And it is believed that quantum tunneling can collapse. The effects of quantum tunneling can affect the collapse of superposition. And superposition, and we had this discussion in the round table with Schrodinger's cat versus the ideas of Niels Bohr, and the different ideas with regards to superposition and how it works. And I won't get lost in the physics because it's not really what I'm here about. But I'm just here to illustrate that you guys can go look this up. Quantum tunneling is an effect of DNA. And it does happen outside of normal dimensional space and time. It's happening on the quantum level. And it happens outside of time. This is important. We're talking about quantum entanglement. When Namaste, Kyle, how are you doing? Hope you're good. Hope you are well and thriving. Big love and big blessings to you. So when we're talking about how the superposition can collapse, it's really about the state of these fields making a choice. And that choice is heavily affected by the observer. Now, scientists cannot understand how the observer affects the outcome, but it has been discovered. And by observer, that can also mean equipment. But the equipment that is observing is based upon the thoughts of the observer setting up the equipment. So there's definitely a mental component to this. And we've got to start looking at the nature of reality and start asking questions about, panpsychism, animism, that all things have a soul, that there is fundamental intelligence behind matter. Absolutely well. Thank you very much. Very much, Kyle. Sorry to hear you're sick. Get healthy. Drink yourself a whole lot of lemon water. Drink a whole lot of water. Maybe get a bit of rock salt. Flush your system. Namaste, SP. Ja, hope you are well. Hope you are thriving. So, the observation has an effect on the outcome of quantum experiments. And what is there that connects the consciousness through the DNA field, right? Because if you think about what hormones are vibrating at a certain frequency, but the DNA is vibrating throughout the frequencies from, gigahertz to 10 terahertz plus. So we've got a very large range of resonance vibrations and a whole lot of different layers of different frequencies and standing waves and all sorts of potentials within that field of DNA vibration. And that gives rise to these quantum tunnels. And these quantum tunneling effects has an effect on the structure of reality. Now we're going to talk about dreams. I'm going to take you on a little adventure. I want you to go and Google, make a note to Google quantum tunneling in DNA. One project, separate project. Google how quantum tunneling can affect the superposition. Those are two little tasks of homework. Go on a little and play with different search terms and see what you're going to figure out with those two ideas. And then you need to be the intelligence in the middle to put these two pieces of data together. What is the consensus? So what I've discovered is that these quantum tunnels seem to have an extra dimensional potential that can transcend. Also, Google how quantum tunneling is outside of time or normal time. And that you're going to come up with things like quantum entanglement and how superposition can stand outside of time, connecting two different points in time. And this has been tested under laboratory conditions. Very small amounts of time, but different points in time. In other words, a particle can show up in a slightly different time frame than now. The same particle can exist in two different points in time. I want you to just imagine what that means. And this is superposition, and this is quantum entanglement, and quantum tunneling has a connection. Now, when we're looking at the consciousness field, we can say that the DNA is the vehicle through which the life force comes into the physical body. And the life force, which is the consciousness, which is the intelligence, which is the dynamic mental field, is flowing in to the body through the DNA field, which is then activating and flowing with the hormonal field, which is then activating and flowing with the electrical field of the central nervous system. And so all the information is able to traverse the body through two ways, through the hormonal fields and through the electrical fields, which are conducted both on a cellular level from cell to cell to cell, maintaining an electrical cell field through the cells, each cell being dependent upon the electrical strength of the chemical reactions in order to maintain the necessary electrical level of potential to maintain life and good health. You said you weren't feeling so well, right? And namaste, Nicole. How are you? Sending you love. I hope you're well. I hope you're thriving. Who was it that said they weren't feeling well? I think it was Kyle. So Kyle, you're not feeling well at the moment. Let me tell you what happened, right? The electrical potential in your cells dropped. And because the electrical potential in your cells dropped, the efficacy and efficiency of your white blood cells were decreased because they rely upon that electrical potential in order to use a form of organic magnetism, for choice of better words, to attract foreign bodies and neutralize them. So toxins built up in your system and your white blood cells weren't working efficiently enough to reduce the toxins, and they overcame your system. And then now we would say that those toxins are a result of bacteria, which is a result of a virus, hypothetically. You know, this is one line of theory. There's other lines of theory that says viruses don't actually exist. So, but without getting into the stickiness of that, just the electrical potential in the cells drop when we're not healthy. And when we're healthy, they're at a high rate. So this is important to recognize and realize. So that electrical field is very important, as is the hormonal field, because the hormonal field is very much wired into the enzymes, right? And the enzyme reactions. For example, most of the serotonin, I think 90% of the serotonin, is it 80 or 90% of the serotonin gets made in your large intestine, I believe. I think it's the large. Did you know that? Yeah, you want to be happy? It's all in your gut. Happy gut, happy brain. And that's just one of the hormones. You know, melatonin has at least 10% of it made in the gut. A lot of hormones have the precursors that are manufactured in the gut that then can be assimilated in other parts. But the gut is fundamentally important. So the hormones have their feed in. Now, the DNA is that link through which the plan and the energy field of the body gets structured. So I want you to consider what the DNA is. I would postulate that the DNA is the presence of the soul body, is the seat of the soul in our physical systems. And that's why the DNA holds all the blueprints, the soul's blueprints for moods, mental states, neural capacity, physical capacity, health, the shape and structure of our bodies, our personalities. A lot of this is determined in our DNA. Why? Because it's carries something into this life from wherever it comes through our parents. It carries that ancestral current of information, DNA. So think about what that means. When the ancestors are being worshipped in an African tribe, they are speaking to their own deep DNA that's recessive. And they are, through that DNA, able to access other time. I want you to think about this, right? Quantum tunneling can move into different states of superposition or connect us with different states of superposition. Probably a better way of putting it, right? This means superposition of us that exist in the future, of us that exist in the past, and us that exist in the present. And there we've got an ancestral lineage. You've got to grasp what the shamanic practice is all about, connecting with the ancestors. It's not some metaphor. It's literally to do with the DNA. This is why the shaman can channel the ancestors, and they can literally change matter now. They can remove illness. They can cause illness. They can bring information now that's relevant to now. How could ancestors that exist in the past be present now? Well, think about the implications of consciousness existing outside of this time stream and channeling some of that consciousness in through the DNA system, and that DNA system is carrying that vibrational field all the way from the 10 terahertz spectrum right down to the 1 gigahertz, even down into the higher megahertz spectrum, some of the DNA. So that entire field of vibration within our body is tuned by the frequencies of our DNA. And our hormones are triggered by DNA, right? And the DNA works backwards to the hormones work back to the DNA. Certain hormones are going to interact with certain DNA, turn them on, turn them off. So we have a certain amount of a mental ability to change our hormonal state, because our hormonal state is our emotional state of being, our emotional body, our astral body, hormones. And this is related not to the pineal gland, but to the pituitary gland. The pineal gland is related to the mental field. That's the etheric body. And the pineal gland is responsible for our central nervous system's operations, right? It does act with the hormonal field. They're not separate, but specifically it manages the central nervous system, right? Where the pituitary gland is more tuned into managing our emotional moods, feelings, hormones. That's why when we become hormonal, we become emotional. And so the pineal gland is related to what we consider modern times IQ, not emotional IQ, not emotional EQ. That is the emotional intelligence that's ruled by the pituitary gland. So we have this misconception that the third eye is related to the pineal gland. It is, but that's one petal. The other petal is the pituitary gland. And so the astral and the etheric work together, and they are centered here. Yeah. And the centering of these two fields is what produces this field of consciousness, so that we're able to manifest into this physical reality. And let me give you a little bit of an image so that we can grasp a little bit. Ida, Pingala. So when we're looking at the reality of dreams, right? It's very important for us to hold in our minds and our emotional state, or to recognize, shall we say, probably a better way of putting it. That should be a better image quality, shouldn't it? There we go. It's very important for us to recognize that fundamentally, right, our dreams are as real as is reality. we might not recognize that. In the case of lucid dreaming, if we're going to get right down to the neurochemistry behind what lucid dreaming is, lucid dreaming happens when the brain is more active, right? And that's quite important to recognize, because without recognizing that, we're going to sort of miss the fundamental point of exactly what's going on here. And I think it's very easy for us to get lost in ideas when we use too many big words and put things out of context, right? It's something that we all tend to do, right? It's part of our human condition, because we've been so conditioned into relying heavily upon what we would call the forebrain and the frontal lobes, and the which is managed largely by the left side, right? They call it the left brain. It's not really that simple, because the brain works in synergy, it uses all the parts together, but there is a dominance of what we call the left brain when it comes to rational thought. And so we've been taught to over-rationalize everything and neglect the emotional, intuitive ability to pull information. And we do have an intuitive ability. How often is it that when the phone rings and you just know who it is on the phone, or you just happen to be thinking about that person on the phone and they ring? That's quite a normal, natural. It's a real source of information, though. And if you can learn to tap that, it can be quite useful. So here we have a drawing of the Ida and the Pingala. The Pingala is that nadi on the right side of your physical body. Yeah, we're looking at somebody face on, so we see it on the left side of the image, the Pingala. This is related to the pineal gland. Here we have the Ida on the left side of the body, which we see on the right side of the image here, which is related to the pituitary gland. And we have the Sushumna, which is that aspect of harmony and balance from whence these two currents arise. This is an important distinction that you probably won't find in books. But these two currents arise from that point. So that will give us an insight into the nature of these two. They are poles. They are essentially two poles of the same reality, a yang and a yin, if you will. And the one's feminine and the one's masculine from our perspective. And from men and women's perspective, there's an inverse polarity here, because our bodies are polarized in different ways. A woman's body is receptive. It's got a cup, right? It takes into itself, and inside itself it incubates. A male's body is expressive. It points out of itself, and from inside itself, it draws the source of life and it shoots it out. But it cannot incubate that life. That life needs to be captured, and it needs to be held inside a safe space to be incubated. Only the womb can do that. So, the male and female bodies are opposite. So the polarity of the astral and the etheric field are inverse for men and women. This is something that people don't really realize. Now we're going to get to the proverbial meat and potatoes of this conversation. So the etheric field, which is related to the pineal gland, right, which is attached to the thalamus. It's like a little pimple on the end of the thalamus. And I promise I'm going to move away from the physics in a minute. Well, what is this? Neurochemistry, biochemistry. The thalamus regulates this central nervous system. And the hypothalamus is where the pituitary gland is attached to, and that regulates the hormonal systems and important for our moods and feelings and emotions and emotional intelligence. So these two different qualities. Now, the Sushumna is where these two arise from. Now, remember I said to you the DNA is the point from whence everything arises, because the DNA produces an acoustic field. And this acoustic field is a cymatic field that structures hormones. I want you to think about what that means. A cymatic field that structures hormones, and the cymatic vibration, the resonance of that is between 10 terahertz and 1 gigahertz, most of the resonance. Some of it is outside of that on either side. So that's a very great range of frequency. And within that frequency, there are various different standing wave points. And so no two DNA fields are the same. We've been taught to think of DNA as just like noughts and crosses on a piece of paper. No, it's a vibrating, spinning helix. When you think about what that means. Hollowbone Hawk. being grown up, soul, DNA, health, exactly, you know. So the soul, I would say, is rooted into the physical body through the DNA. It's the root of the soul. If the soul were a plant and it had a root, the root would be the DNA. And the trunk would be the which is shining out this way, would be the astral, and the foliage would be the etheric, right? That would be the central nervous system. Would you think about that for a minute? And between the central nervous system and the interactions between the electrical principles of the electrical principles that govern the central nervous system and the principles that govern the hormonal system, there will be a structuring of tissue, right? And that tissue will have to hold electric charge, right? And the hormones will be turned into enzymes, will be turned into various different structuring mechanisms that can restructure amino acids. And so differentiation would occur in order for these two polarities to find an expression, because these two polarities would carry the fundamental structures of life, but they would need to have a system through which to work. So you can see how these systems are integrated so very well and so very carefully. And so we're looking at the physical body now. We're looking at dreams. So I'm saying that dreams are experienced on a very abstract level, right? They are an interaction between our central nervous system, our hormonal system, and our DNA system. I want you to think about that for a moment. Now, where do they happen? Well, where is the central nervous system happening? The central nervous system is an electromagnetic field, right? We see the effects of that electromagnetic field electrically running through our central nervous system. However, we can measure that electromagnetic field with an EEG. What does this tell us? The field is separate to the actual, well, maybe separate is the wrong word. The field exists, and this field applies electrical pressure to certain points within the physical infrastructure of our bodies, that we can see electrical currents being generated by the field. In the same way that if I take my phone and I put my phone onto one of those charging panels where you don't have to plug your phone in, you just put it onto a charging panel, then my battery will charge, right? Because of the field that the battery is in, the electricity is now flowing through the battery, right? The battery is able to siphon this electricity and build itself up. So when we're dreaming, we are recharging our electrical system. Consider that for a moment. Let me amend that. When we are sleeping, we are recharging our cellular electrical potential. However, different levels of dreaming produces a different level of charge. If we go beyond all dreaming and we go into the really deep sleep, that could be anything from 0.5 hertz to 2 or 3 hertz, right? That's frequency. That could be anything from 30 electrical impulses per minute to 120 or 180 impulses per minute, right? As opposed to the usual when we are in a dreaming state where it's now 3 hertz to 4 hertz, right? Or, and that's between 180 to 240 electrical impulses per second, to maybe even 300. When we're getting towards the 300 pulses per second through the neural infrastructure, through the brain, then we are getting towards lucid dreaming state. Now, the slower the electrical impulses that are running through the body, the less wastage there is of electrical potential. I want you to think about this for a moment. And the less wastage there is of electrical potential, the better we sleep. The more electrical energy we can siphon into our cells, the better our health, the more we charge with our sleep. So that really, really deep sleep, when you don't have dreams and you have dreamless sleep, is the sleep that causes you to live longer and keeps you younger and gives you more energy. The more you dream, the less energy you have. The more you lucid dream, the more tired you will be. This is quantum mechanics. This is biophysical chemistry. This is how the brain and the body works. Yeah, there isn't a doctor that will contradict this, not a real one, right? So when we are now looking at, okay, so we've seen the differences of lucid dreams and dreams, how they are interpreted in the brain through the electrical potential. Now look beyond this for a moment. Now we're going to go into a place where science hasn't yet fully. Science is aware that there are quantum tunneling effects in the DNA. Quantum tunneling means that we are going hyperdimensional. What does this mean? We're going into the quantum field. The quantum field is hyperdimensional. There isn't this dimensionality in the quantum field. It's a state of pure energy, and it's a state of superposition. And the superposition is fields, these electromagnetic fields. In fact, quantum computers are operating in these quantum fields, right, of superposition. And so that's why quantum computers, the actual calculations are not being done on crystal or on hardware. That's why they've got to keep them so cold in order to keep those fields stable, right? Because every small temperature changes that field. And that field change means you cannot calibrate it. So in order to maintain a calibrated field, you need to maintain the temperature at that as close to, zero as possible. And I don't mean zero as in the zero, I mean Kelvin, I mean like absolute zero. So this is why they spend so much money keeping those quantum computers cold. That's really where all the money goes for quantum computing. So these extra dimensional potentials, and I'm calling it extra dimensional because we're not within this physical dimension of space-time that we are used to here. In a state of superposition, as we know, quantum entanglement, superposition, and quantum tunneling, this can be outside of time and can be have superposition that operates in two different time points, zones, right? And also, the closer we go to the event horizon, the different, the more the geometry of time-space changes. This is what they'll say if you read the books. The geometry of time-space changes. I want you to think about what that means. The geometry, the shape of time-space, it literally breaks down. It breaks down like the same way that they tell you it breaks down when you're getting close to a black hole, right? To the point where it stops. At some point, we imagine on the point of the event horizon, one imagine there isn't time in a conventional sense. This is why superposition can occupy two different points in time. Now, how does this relate to consciousness? How does this relate to dreaming? How does this relate to astral projection and etheric projection? And this is where it's going to get interesting. So put on your thinking caps, peeps. The whole idea of dreaming, scientists will tell us it's happening in our brain, but that's the biggest load of nonsense you've ever heard in your life. Because in the deep, deep, deep parts of sleep, you have what? 3 hertz? 3 impulses, electrical impulses, as opposed to your normal waking 14, right? If you're in a state of extremely deep meditation, having a euphoric experience, you might go as low as 7 hertz, right? But at that point, you're reaching close to the Zen state of consciousness already. The mind isn't very active. So I want you to imagine what it means to be dropping to less than half of that potential, because the difference between 7 hertz and 10 hertz is a phenomenal difference. 10 hertz, you're just in a very peaceful state, reverie, thinking, happy, nostalgia, maybe in an emotional state to some extent, but not hyper emotional like you go above like 20 hertz. If you go above 20 hertz, 25 hertz, it can become more chaotic, very active mind, thinking, questions, thinking. So a lot of people spend a lot of their time in those high frequencies of neural activity. So I would say that the dream is happening outside of the body in the electromagnetic field, which is conducting consciousness. The question is now, where is that field? Well, that field is attached to the DNA field as it's attached to the hormonal field. And the hormonal and the electrical field, the hormonal field is a more abstract field. It's a higher frequency to the electrical field. So the astral plane, for those of you that have journeyed out there, you hear all these people talking about, oh, they were astral projecting and they were walking around in the... Sorry, hands up. That's not astral projecting. That's lucid dreaming that you're astral projecting. Oh. No, well, I was astral... No. You were not astral projecting. You've read too many self-help books that talk about astral projection and you have no knowledge of what you're talking about. You have no initiation. You have no background and you're just mouth fluffing. And this is what most people do. And then these people mouth fluff that nonsense and they write a book about it. And the book becomes a bestseller because, of course, the powers that be, those that are like behind keeping humanity as dumb slaves, right? They're very pro these ridiculous, mindless books being published. So just let me quickly crank up a little more of the good stuff. Oh, yeah. I hope you're burning some hollow bone, Hawk. So, yeah, these people then write these books thinking that they know what they're talking about, right? When they simply don't. And this then creates more confusion. And unfortunately, most of the people writing the books are not the people that have experiences. Sure, they have lucid dreams about astral projecting and they think they're astral projected and they write a book. But it's not the same as astral projecting. I'll let you in on a secret about astral projection. Namaste, Tracy. How are you doing? I hope you are well. I hope you're thriving. I hope you are happy and having a good day. You're on the mobile phone, as is Espija. Actually, quite a few of you on the mobile phone. I see that. That's interesting. There's two different versions. There's a mobile phone version, and there is the version that's for laptops. Apparently, my girlfriend says the mobile phone version is annoying. It doesn't work so well. I don't know. I've never watched it on the mobile. I wouldn't know. I only watch things on my TV or my laptop. I don't like watching things on my phone. It's too close to me. I want to put it further away. The laptop is further than that away from me. I'm not even touching the screen. I like to keep my electronics far away, especially things that are plugged into a Wi-Fi. So, right. You jacked. I haven't jacked my TV into my phone. I'm too scared. I'm like, they're already tracking me. I'm like one of those paranoid guys. Like they're tracking me. I don't want my Samsung TV to talk to my phone. Just now my phone tells them something about me. It's not supposed to know. I don't know. Maybe I'm silly. I'm so damn like annoyed by all of the tracking on our phones and our TVs and our technology. Gaz, brother, how are you? Oh, your mobile's been switched off for 4 years. Wow, impressive, dude. Impressive. So yeah. So all of these people that are thinking that they're lucid dreaming, are thinking that they're having astral projection. I'll give you an insight into etheric projection. So, and this is probably important because now we're going to look at what is called that sleep paralysis. Now, I have a very personal relationship with sleep paralysis because I experienced it. It was my usual daily bread as a child. And I had to overcome the fear. Luckily, I wasn't on my own. I had a little dancing guy with a bright suit. Apparently, those are called leprechauns. So I found out later. He used to come and dance and make all the other bad things that came to try and find me go away. So I learned to feel safe in that space because things used to come and hunt me and it wasn't much fun. However, that sleep paralysis is something I know, like, let's just say my old bed buddy. You know, I know that sleep paralysis well. at least thousands of times I experienced sleep paralysis, but like on a daily affair, like every day. And it was rare not to experience it. And it took me a long time to realize what was happening. Now, when you're experiencing sleep paralysis, the first thing you notice is it feels like there's a weight pushing down on you, or you feel like you're trapped underneath something and you're stuck. And you can't move your body. But have you noticed that when you're in a state of sleep paralysis, namaste, every day, yeah. Have you noticed how your perception can look around? Did you notice that in sleep paralysis? Like you can see there, then you can see there, you can see around the room. So in sleep paralysis, you're still in your room. It might be dark, but even though it's dark, you can still see the outline of the room. Did you notice that? It's like you can sense and see the walls, even through the darkness. And you can somehow see there, then you can see there, but without turning your head, right? I'm giving you guys a clue, right? That's sleep, yes. That's sleep paralysis, what we call sleep paralysis. That is being in the etheric body. Drum roll, people, please. Drum roll. People don't know it. Can you walk around when you're in sleep paralysis? No, you cannot walk around. Can you walk to the door and open the door and walk out? Or can you walk through the wall? No, you cannot walk through the wall. Not possible to walk. Can you travel in the state of sleep paralysis? Most certainly you can, but there's a bit of a knack to it. You see, you have to focus on where you want to be, and instantly you zoom there, like really fast. So if you manage to think yourself in another room, you'll instantly zoom there, like really quickly, and you're just there and you're observing. You can see and hear what's happening in the room. If you zoom somewhere far away, you can zoom there really quickly and you're there. So you travel in that sleep paralysis state to other places in the physical world. However, when that happens, you can move through walls. Any of you that have had this experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you cannot walk and you cannot lift your arm. You cannot lift your hand. You cannot turn your head. There is no head to turn. There is no hand to lift. Not that you don't have a body. You're just operating in a different field, right? Your shape of your body may be the same as your body, but you're not using conventional hands, legs, feelings. You're using thought to propel yourself. Now, you can recreate a lucid dream of that experience for yourself, where you walk and have hands and have legs, but now you're no longer in the etheric plane. You're now in a lucid dream. We're going to get to where that lucid dream's happening in a minute. So that's the mode of transportation in the etheric. That's when you know you're in the ether. That sleep paralysis is a sign that you're no longer in your physical body. And that fear that you feel because of the weight pressing down on you and that you cannot move and you cannot talk is the recognition of confusion, because the principles and the laws that you are used to in the physical do not apply in the same way on the etheric field. So you're not able to get up and walk and use your voice. You can use your voice in the etheric plane, but not with your vocal cords. If you can imagine your voice, you can hear it. You can project your voice. You can make the sound of your voice, but you're making it with thought, not with vocal mechanics. And then it's an auditory experience that you're generating through the consciousness field, and that carries vibration, by the way. So that is essentially what we're talking about when we're talking about etheric field and being in the ethers and projecting through the ethers. It looks like this physical reality. It has the same shape, but there's something missing. I don't know how to put it, but I can't embrace color in the way that I embrace color here if I'm in the etheric. I don't know whether there's no color, but you can't see color in the same way. It's very strange. There's just a ness to everything. Everything just is. And it's almost like the everything just seems to be in Probably because a lot of the time we're projecting etherically, it's in the dark, right? And it works better in the dark. There's something to do with the polarity of the sun and the reversal of the electrical field that changes the plant's mode from breathing in CO2 to breathing in O2, right? And how that field changes the way the plant's metabolism works, that changes our own DNA fields, right? That changes our own electrical and hormonal fields, which is why I think it's much easier to project out of your body when it's dark. So there's food for thought. Now, when we're talking about the astral plane, it's that plus a whole lot more, right? Let's see what we got here. I'm trying to see your. You would actually accidentally do it when you were awake, and the physical reality around you would disappear, and you would be there. But in reality, at the same time, your mom named you Space Cadet. That's actually quite a good name for it, because you're literally in space, right? The space. And so this is really important for us to recognize. The etheric field is related to space. It's related to the shape of things and the structure of space, right? And so that's why when we're out of our bodies in the etheric field, we see the structure of space, and we can move through space like it's physical, but there's no walking, there's no talking, there's no picking objects up. There's no picking objects up, right? I'm not saying you can't move objects. I haven't moved an object in the etheric field, but I'm not saying that it's not necessarily possible, but you wouldn't be picking it up with your hand if you did move it. If you moved it, you'd be moving it with thought. I'm not saying it can or can't be done, because to me, it makes sense that it should be able to be done. But it would take an extremely high potential of electrical energy potential to be able to shift that object. One would have to be pulling a lot of energy from one's body and from the ether around in order to channel it to cause that reaction. And I'm not saying it's not possible. So there's food for thought. But the structure and the shape, the sacred geometry, is related to the etheric field. So this is true etheric projection. If you hear someone talking about walking around, lucid dreaming. Now let's take a step into the astral. Yeah, exactly. SBJ, this manifestation into physical reality, it has a lot to do with concentration. To concentrate the electrical potential into a point and build that concentration and build and compress more potential into that point until that point is built with so much energy that it starts to produce electromagnetic dissidence and affect the electromagnetism of time-space around it. Telekinesis or other abilities, for example. So now let's look at the astral, right? So the etheric field is governed by the electromagnetic system, and it's electromagnetism that's around the body that is projecting consciousness into the body. But when the body is charging itself up from the electromagnetic field, the awareness is able to be outside of the body, and the awareness is able to maintain a fair amount. So I would say that the etheric projection is happening maybe at about 5 to 6 hertz, potentially at that phase, right? The electromagnetic field is connected to all the other electromagnetic fields. And it's like a field of fields, and they're all interacting. And so we're able to travel through these fields. And so there's a fundamental grid of fields that we could travel through. So we're literally traveling on the fields that are structured and bound by the ley lines when we're traveling in the etheric field. Now, what's the astral? The etheric being maintained by the electromagnetic field, which is the pineal gland, which is the central nervous system. The astral is related to our more emotional qualities. And emotional qualities, I want you to hear the word qualities. Emotions are qualities, they're qualitative. They're not definitive, right? Thoughts, ideas that we experience through our rational ability to think, which are maintained and governed by the pineal gland, the etheric field, are definitive. Like the space is being bound in a shape. The astral is qualitative. There is no shape. It's a shapeless journey. My gosh, it's a shapeless journey. You're in a sphere, but you can't see the circumference of the sphere. You can just imagine that you're in a sphere. You can't even see the sphere. You're just in this substance. And the substance that you're in is like just a pure natural substance. And there isn't up or down or left or right or walls or floors or the ground or the sky. None of that exists in the astral. Nothing. You're just in a fluid. The fluid almost seems like, if you look at it, it almost seems like it's a silvery kind of a fluid. Hard to say. It's got silvery sort of cadence to it. Fluid might not be the right word, but it's got some kind of a tactile sense around it that you can feel it. It's got a quality. It's not definitive. And in the astral field, there's a lot of color. Oh, wow. You can stare down at the etheric field where the etheric field touches the astral from the astral if you get to that point. And you can see the etheric field interacting with the astral field. And the colors of the etheric field are being absorbed into patterns. It's an incredible thing to watch. And these patterns are moving like little grids of shapes and geometry moving. And these colors are like dancing through these grids. It's incredible, beautiful, amazing, very rare experience, I think. It's not something that I experience very often. But if you tune into the fire elemental energy, you might see how fire astral substance touches on the etheric. And you can see the same for the element of air and an element of earth and water and such. If you become very closely aligned with these different elements, if you're in tune with the element of fire, there's going to be a red with a green geometric cadence with these colors that are so intense that the colors are like washing you with a sense of quality and feeling. But it's very abstract. It's very abstract. Where did I see it? Was it above me? Was it under me? Was it there? Was it here? It's very abstract. That part of the brain which structures things is the etheric. And when you go outside of the etheric, that structuring is left behind. You're now in the pure qualities of creation. And in the qualities of creation, you're in this proverbial substance. Big love. Namaste, dear Rob. How are you doing? I hope you're well. Now, in these qualities, in this proverbial soup of substance, you will find that whatever you feel bounces back off of this stuff at you. This is a head trip, man. So whatever you feel, whatever emotions are flowing through you, they are like reverberating off of this, whatever, let's call it fluid, for lack of a better word. This fluid that you're in, like it's almost like you're in an amniotic fluid of the womb or something. This fluid is reflecting back at you abstract pictures. And that's interesting, Rob. We'll talk about alcohol and that in a minute. That's a very interesting observation. How are you doing, by the way? Namaste. I hope you're good, man. But that's a really interesting point. It's called spirits for a reason, yeah? Because I'm sure you weren't drinking the lightweight stuff. I'm sure like when you were drinking like the good old, the spirits, right? You weren't drinking beer or beer shandies, right? Or punch, I'm guessing. You're probably hitting like the whiskey and, the good old stuff. But so when you're in this fluid matrix, that's all I'm going to call it. and it's like an beer vodka. Yeah, that I can believe. When you're in this fluid substance, it reflects back at you what you're feeling, and it becomes an experience that's very, very, very abstract. Imagine Salvador Dali at his most abstracted, or some of the abstract artists, and mangle up surrealism with abstract, mangle it up together, and then that's your reality, right? Now you're getting an idea of what the astral plane is actually like, and that's based upon your feelings. And so the feelings you experience creates this highly colorful field around you that you're experiencing, but it's instantaneous. And this instantaneous feedback loop of your feelings and your emotions is what maintains this astral field around you. And there's no left or right or, oh, I came from there, I have to go back there. That doesn't exist. Effectively, you're lost. On the etheric plane, you can find your way. Oh, I know where I am. I'm on that place. So if I go that direction, well, then I'm going to find that place. And you zoom there. Oh, if I go that way, I'm going to zoom there. Now I know where my house is. That's my house. I'm zoom to my house. Now I know where my bed is. Zoom to your bed, and you may see your body laying on the bed. That's etheric projection. That's not astral projection, and there's no walking. There's no walking. There's no talking. There's no moving things. There's no walking upstairs, walking downstairs. None of that happens. If you're going upstairs, you don't even travel upstairs. You just zoom to where you need to be, and you're there. You want to be on top of a mountain, you just zoom there instantly. It's very fast. It's like a swoosh, and you're there. And you're at this place, and you're witnessing what's around there. On the astral plane, it's a very different mode of transportation, because you're traveling on your feelings. You're traveling on your qualities. And so what you're experiencing are all the qualities reflecting outward at you, and those qualities are abstractly assembled with little fractures of thoughts and ideas that you can relate to in the world, but they have no coherency. The coherency of the etheric plane is consistent, coherent. In the astral, there is no coherency, because it's just instantaneous, real-time upload, download into this fluid substance, the qualities that I've got in my emotional body, and that's what I'm experiencing. My brain tries to make sense out of that while I'm in the body, so that it can pull some of that information into the body. But from a physical perspective, it's impossible to put into context, because it's so abstract. It's experiencing the qualities directly. And now, lucid dreaming, Rob. Now we're going to get into lucid dreaming, right? And what Rob was saying about what you were saying about how when you stopped drinking, the sleep paralysis stopped. Alcohol puts you out of your body. You know when you're drinking a lot? Now, when the alcohol hits you really, really hard, and if you want the alcohol to hit you harder, don't try this at home, kids. But let's say you're drinking and you're a bit drunk. You get that sort of dizzy feeling. That's you swinging in and out of your body. That dizzy feeling. If you're drinking and you hit a pipe, like a good old-fashioned pipe, cannabis, like a proper pipe, like a chillum. You hit it like a sadhu. You hit that chillum like a sadhu. You'll be spinning because of the alcohol, right? And you'll be spinning so much that you'll get dizzy. That dizzy feeling is spinning in and out of the physical body, into the etheric, back into the physical body, into the etheric, back into the physical body, into the etheric. You can even spin so far out into the astral, right? And so that's why, yeah, Rob, the puking is your body's way to clear the information that you've just received, which is overwhelming your senses. Information is stored in the gut. You puke it out, you feel clear. You're not trying to assimilate that hyperdimensional state with this physical state that you're in now, because they don't operate together. So you need to clear the energy, the information out of your system, and vomiting is one way that the body does that. So that's like an interesting point that you brought up, and I think it's worth looking at. So alcohol does that. Cannabis, if you smoke cannabis and you don't use alcohol, if you're doing it right and you got the right stuff, like let's say you get like, I don't know, let's say you get 40% pure THC, like good, 45, 50%. Let's say you get the Milana cream and you're packing out 55, 60% THC. And you make a chillum, you put a gram of that in, right? And that chillum is sitting there nicely with a good 500 milligrams of THC in the chillum. And you and 2 other people hit that 500 milligrams of THC, and you imbibe a good 150, 200 milligrams of THC, but quickly into your system, right? Like 2 hits, 3 hits. Like so that chillum goes around, like in 1 minute it's done. Then that's going to give you a real experience, right? Of it's like it would be the same as taking a whole gram of chronic and just hitting it all at once, just quickly smoking it all, not in a long slow do in a pipe. That's all we're talking about. So in the same way, this would cause you to become aware of the vibrating in your central nervous system. So it's not the same as alcohol. That's why we don't call it spirits. When you smoke it, if you do a ritual and you smoke your chillum and you sit and you invoke the particular verbal patterns that will structure the way your consciousness is experiencing this state of altered consciousness, then you will find that you feel this vibrating in your head, and they call it nasha, and it will right in the center of your head, it'll be vibrating, and everything else will just be vibrating like this. There's this vibration running through your whole body. Everything's just vibrating. And you feel that nasa inside there. And it's like there's a small spinning sensation in the center of your head. Everything else is stable and vibrating. So it's amping you into the etheric, plugging you in, right? Different experience. But so that's why the sadhus in India use charas for their rituals. Yeah, Rob, I mean, the other substances, I suppose, can also. But you can reach that state with meditation. That's the important thing. If you practice your meditation and you sit, you will start to get to that point where everything's vibrating. And you feel the whole universe vibrating, and you feel like the vibration is like pegged in to that point. And then you'll notice that it's also pegged into your perineum point, your heart point. You'll notice it's also pegged into your points in your spine. You'll notice those are your chakras, different frequencies and tones of vibration within each different state. And those are different qualities, different hormonal states, different hormonal qualities within your system. And it almost will feel like there's something inside your head. Rob says he feels it as a numb feeling. It feels like there's this weird sensation in the center of your head. Very hard to put down. I would describe it as almost like there's a dense feeling in there. It feels like there's a density. You just become very aware of the center of your head. And as you become more aware of it, you'll notice there's a vibration. And that vibration is everywhere. And the more you go into that vibration, you'll start to hear it. You'll start to hear the vibration. It's got sound. We call that like hearing the Om. In deep states of meditation, this is what's going to happen to you. So now this will tune your body to the etheric field, and you will learn to leave your body consciously. The more time you spend listening to that vibration and learning to focus your awareness into that point and feel and hold that vibrational state, that's aligning you and attuning you to the etheric field. You'll be able to leave your body. That's why the yogis travel out of their bodies, and they travel to the sun, and they travel to the planets and other things. That's the etheric field they're traveling on, right? And they've learned to do that by loosening the etheric body. So, and they don't walk to the sun. They don't paddle. No. It's thought, travel at the speed of thought. So now the astral, being so extremely abstract, is happening in a hyperdimensional. I want us to imagine this physical reality, right? Sorry, I don't want to bump my thing. And then encapsulated around the physical reality, there's an astral field. I mean, an etheric field. And this electromagnetic field holds the reality. But the electrical field is encapsulated and bound through a magnetic field in a gravitational poise, right? And so within the one field, the etheric field, that's in a greater field, the astral field. And the astral field is in a greater field. We call that the soul matrix. We call that the causal body. Now, the causal body is like causal travel is a whole. I don't want to get too lost in causal travel, but let's just say that when people are talking about the akasha, when you're traveling in the causal, you're traveling outside of time. If you're experiencing past life recollection, you're traveling through the causal field. You're having moments where you're tapping into the causal field and bringing information from other time fields through the causal field. Call that the Akash. And so in Western, they speak about the Akashic records, which is really some new age bastardization of the term. But the causal field is a vibrational field, and this is the Akashic field. The Akashic field is related to your Visuddhi chakra. The Visuddhi chakra is that point where and very important to understand this, right? To get a sense of what I'm talking about here. Notice in this picture that we're sharing up here. Notice, right? This picture isn't very good because does it show the blue and the red traveling? No, that's not actually right. What happens at Visuddhi chakra, which is the vagus nerve, that point, the two streams combine and the Shashumna becomes singular. And what happens is above the Visuddhi chakra, the Ida and the Pingala are both bound within the Shashumna. And so the splitting of the Ida and the Pingala only starts to properly happen at Visuddhi chakra. So technically there's a single line running through there. They've represented it here in this way to show that it touches the Ajna chakra, the crown chakra, as well as so what you actually have is you have the blue line emitting from one chakra and you have the other line emitting from the other chakra, or emitting a different polarity towards each line of energy, but they're coming through the same field. So the Shashumna field is the presence of the causal body within the physical body. And that causal body holds both the astral and the etheric body within it. So the etheric body and the astral body are combined into a single body in the causal body. They're no longer separate. It's only when you move beyond the causal body into the manifestation of vibrations and sound that the astral and the etheric separate and form a polarity, the polarity we're looking at here on the screen. And when we are able to gain experience of the causal body, right, we're then able to recognize that that causal body is a connection with our ancestrals in the future and the past. And so this is what the shaman is going into a trance to connect with the ancestors, is to gain an experience of the causal field where the ancestors are in the past and the present here now. And in that causal field, we're able to see futures and past. Potentially, it can be revealed to us if we have the concentration and the awareness necessary to maintain that state. And the information that then comes into the body is very abstract. So that causal field, which is the causal body, which is the spiritual body, if you will, is the outside of the space-time contingency, right? And I believe that the DNA is producing these quantum tunneling effects that connects the consciousness to outside of time-space into this time space here and produces particular acoustic cymatic reactions so that the hormonal states and the electrical states can be maintained within a frame, a frame that has qualities. And the qualities of the frame are dictated by the hormones in the astral body, and the structure and space, shaping of the space, is maintained by the etheric body. So Western occultism is working with the Sephirot. The Sephirot are considered as containers. They are shape that contain energy. Easterners, they are working with the chakras. The chakras are not containers. Chakras is whirlings of energy. It's spinning energy, and that spinning energy is spinning. Now, that spinning energy is contained within the containers. So when you're working with the etheric body, you're working with the Sephirot. And the Sephirot are the containers that contain that spinning, vibrating energy. When you're working with the chakras, you're working with the qualities of that spinning potential that enlivens the Sephirot. So you can change your Sephirot by changing your chakras, and you can change your chakras by changing your Sephirot. They're wired into each other. In the same way that, if you got a glass of something, that glass contains that something, and that something is now in that glass. And they become one thing, right? So the shape of that glass is according to the shape of the substance in it. If you change the quality of that substance and you make it too hot, even if the glass is made out of silver, it will melt and change its shape, right? If you change the temperature of that glass, let's say it's metal, the substance inside will change its temperature and it will change its quality and become ice. Okay. So there's a two-way relationship between the substance in the glass and the substance, right? They can affect each other. So in the same way, the Sephirot and the chakras are affecting each other. And so the Easterners, they have a mala. Where's my malas? I don't have my malas here at the moment. You have 108 beads on a mala. The 108 beads on a mala are related to the 108 degrees on a pentagram. So if you look at a pentagram, let me grab one for you. Pentagram showing 108 degrees and 72 degrees and fractal. Oh, gosh. And fractal expression. Don't know if we're going to get an image. It's going to show us all of that, but it would be nice. Well, here is one. You see, here's one expression of it. Just for example. So these, you can see the pentagrams there. You can see how they structure, right? If you look at the degrees of a pentagram, right? You've got 108 and 72 degrees, right? You probably see it better. Let me take the word fractal out, because the fractal is them throwing all nonsense at us. And now let's just look at the pure maths of what it is that we're looking at. So we can then look at this one. So here we can see what I'm talking about. Notice that when you look at the maths of a pentagram, you've got 108 degrees next to 72 degrees. So the 108 degrees represents the astral plane. And the 72 degrees represents the etheric plane. Now, our Western understanding of numerology and our numerology comes from a 12 base 6 number system. Now, everybody tells you that this is some kind of psyop. Okay, let the kids talk. The kids on TikTok and the kids on, YouTube shorts and stuff. let them have their little moments. There's elements to this, right? But the reason the Sumerians calculated with a 6 base neurological system with 12 potentials is because the 12 aspects of the zodiac that they were recognizing is based upon the 72 quinins. And the 72 quinins is based upon the etheric field and it's mapping etheric space. The Vedic system of working with the chakras, that's not mapping etheric space. That's mapping the astral field. That's why there are 108 beads on your mala. That's why you chant Om Namah Shivaya 108 times. Right? Because you are tuning to the astral field when you're chanting those muscles, those mantras, exercising those astral muscles in order to gain insight into the astral. And this is to do with meditating on qualities of Shiva. Notice the word qualities again. Qualities. And that Om Namah Shivaya, these are all going to carry the root potential to control particular qualities in your system. Right? Like the Na will help you to control your Priviti, or your earth element quality. The Va will help you to control your Svadhisthana, your Apas, your watery potential. Right? And she, fire, it's the sound the fire makes. Your she will help you to control the quality that is the essence of what the fire element is made out of in the realm of the astral. Why is Agni different? Go and look this up if you're curious. Why is Agni different to Teja? The Tejas is the mental elemental state that becomes Agni. Agni is a more manifest level of this fire potential. We're speaking on a purely abstract astral level. The Tejas, right? The Va. What's Va? Va. It's the wind. Listen to it. It's onomatopoeia. It's the wind. It's that pre-wind element. They speak of it becoming Vayu. But in its root astral state, to control that pre-wind state, which is an astral state, it's a quality. The Va, the Ia, Ia, this is the oldest name. Ia, then became Ia or in Western. This is Ia, Enki, Sumeria. But Ia, we're talking about the Akashic field. But it's not the Akasha, it's the Ia. This is the primordial astral reflection of the state into the body. And so this is where the Om, this is the pure spark of that which is transcendent. This is the transcendent, the coming together of the three potentials that produces the unstruck sound that is carried by the Visuddhi. That unstruck potential, that's the where the field of vibration meets the ordinance of correspondence, second principle of Hermes, and the third principle of Hermes, in order to become an expression of the first principle of Hermes, which is mentalism. And so we see that field where you got the circle and the two petals, which is the diagram of the Ajna chakra. They call the third eye diagram, another badly coined term. And when we look at this, we're seeing essentially the qualities of the Ida and the Pingala, but before they becoming manifest, reflected in those two petals. And that is essentially showing us that the astral and the etheric are emerging from the sphere, and that principle of Hermetic first principle of mentalism is essentially what we're talking about when we talk about the causal body, the causal field, and that these three are bound in each other, and that the Om becomes an expression of these three principles in the process of manifesting. But these three principles in their unmanifested point, in unmanifest state, are expressed as Sat, Tat. And when these two Sat and Tat are being expressed into manifestation, they become Om. So we say Om, Tat, Sat. This is why the Om contains three elements. The Om, Tat, Sat, each reverberating through each of the elements within the Om. So when we look at the infrastructure of the energetic body, we are mapping the astral, very abstract. Yeah, exactly. It is not yet is. Is not yet is. Hey Vince, how you doing? Big love, man. Namaste. Is not yet is. Yes, that's one way of putting it. I like that. Was, is, and will be. was, is, and will be. It sounds like you're introducing them. Those are my two friends. Was, is, and will be. Say hello. But yeah, basically, these are the ideas we're looking at. So these abstract principles are the way that you can understand the astral, which is an extremely abstract state of consciousness. This is why a lot of Westerners struggle with mysticism from India, because it's so abstract. To wrap your head around it, it's not as organized as the Western model of cosmological analysis, right? Because we're looking in the Western school, we're looking at the material. So we're focusing upwards to look downwards. The Vedics are focusing downwards to look upwards. So in the Western schools, we are focusing on the descent of energy towards matter and materialization. In Western schools of thought, we are looking at the in the Eastern schools of mysticism, we are looking at the physical becoming reunited with its spiritual components. In the West, we want to bring the spiritual components into the physical. Same thing. This is two different ways of translating the idea. And the one is related to the etheric. The etheric wishes, you see, the etheric is radiating upwards. And because the etheric is radiating upwards, it brings down an essence. Because the astral is radiating downwards, it brings up an essence. The essence that the downward radiating astral brings, the down current, is the etheric. And the etheric radiating upwards, the downward presence that it brings is the astral. This is why what you do to the chakra affects the sephirot, and what you do to the sephirot affects the chakra. Why there's no real difference at the end of the day. However, two different modes of operation, one acting on the etheric, one acting on the astral. And the dimensional scale is different. I want to say that. And when I speak of dimensional scale, I'm speaking of time. So if you're in the astral field, time is very different. If you're in the etheric field, time is quite different. A little while in the etheric field, a long time on the etheric field is like in physical reality. An extremely long time in the astral field is in the physical reality. And there seems to be a ratio. Now, looking at the field here, the image that we've got on the screen, right? I think there's something to be understood between the ratio of 72 and 108 in terms of the scaling of time, right? Could it be 72 times or 108 times? That could make sense, right? You know, so if you got 10 meters and you multiply 10 meters by 72, you got 720 meters. If you multiply 10 meters by 108, you got 1,080 meters. It's a big difference, right? And the more that you multiply, the bigger the difference becomes. So if I'm taking 1,000, I say 72,000 versus 108,000, the difference is 36,000. And 36,000 times is a massive difference, right? Now, I'm not going to say I can give you a clear idea of the difference of time because it's very abstract, but there's a very big difference of time that you'll notice when you're on the astral plane. How time coordinates is very different. Now let's step into the lucid dreaming. Let's look at the lucid dreaming element. Namaste, Freya. How are you doing? I hope you're well. Hope you're thriving. The lucid dreaming. Firstly, where do dreams happen? This is such a cool conversation, man. I can't believe I've waited this long to have this conversation, man. This is such a this is an absolutely I'm enjoying this conversation. I hope you guys are. I'm enjoying it so much. I have to crack up some more frankincense. Yes. When the conversation's that good, you got to burn some resin, baby. So, yeah, well, Rob, you know, the DNA is on a whole different frequency, and it's branching out to points beyond time, right? It's branching out into the timeless, into you know, cosmic scale of events, where we're like quantum tunneling directly in to the quantum field and interacting directly with superposition. And superposition is where reality hasn't chosen what it's becoming yet. It's like the pre-manifestational state. And DNA plugs directly into that. So tell me, where do you think consciousness is able to leave when we pass away and we're no longer alive? It's got to travel out through the DNA. How did the consciousness get into the body? Well, it got in through the DNA. How do you think it's going to leave one day? Well, it's probably going to leave the way it came in. Oh, you mean it came in through the DNA? Right. So it's probably going to have to leave through the DNA. Oh, right. Is that what these quantum tunnels are? And quantum tunneling is the real thing. And DNA does have effects of quantum tunneling. And that's something that, you know, you have to be very careful how you ask Google questions, because Google will try and lie. Sad but true. Okay, so let me just give you a quick idea. For those that haven't seen that previous so they're looking at it here. Yes, quantum tunneling plays a significant role in DNA by causing spontaneous genetic mutations. In the field of quantum biology, researchers have confirmed that subatomic particles inside the double helix can bypass classical energy barriers. This alters the chemical structure of the genetic code before replication. Now, if you guys really read those words and look at the implications, right? They're telling you that there are, outside of this quantum field, ways to affect chemical structure of genetic code before it replicates. Makes you think about good health and bad health and illness and such related things, right? And so we see the fractal nature of the pentagram. Pentagram holds that fractal key. And by the way, you can you can also notice, if you look at, for example, if you look, for example, at the nature of the way in which there are other versions of this image that you can see, where you can see just exactly how the DNA field is interacting. I mean, just exactly how the pentagram is able to be indicating the fractal expression, which is perfectly in alignment with phi, might I add, which is interesting. So the 108 and the 72 degrees are the two keys to the 180 degree lines, which form this fundamental basis, right? And the fundamental basis, if we look at it, right, is 72 and 72, which is 144, right? And 144 plus 36. So notice how 36 is the other, is x. X is 36. Now, x being 36 is really interesting, right? Because 36 is in itself a very, very interesting number, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 equals 36. Add 9 equals 45. Add 10 equals 55. These are important numerological ideas when you want to consider sacred geometry. The structuring of the etheric field, for example. These are accessible ways of understanding it. So that 36 there, and the 36 deacons. So there are 36 deacons in your astrological system, right? And those 36 deacons are ruling over the 72 quinins. Just take a moment to understand how the pentagram is wired into the astrological wheel that we look at when we're looking at astrology, and the degrees. Very important. And when you look at the internal mechanics of the pentagon, what have you got? You got 108 times 5, right? That's 540. What is 540? I want you to think about 540, right? That is 5 cycles of 108, right? 5 cycles of the mantra mala. This is why Shiva's number is number 5. This is why Shiva is the one that has invented the metaphysics and the mysticism. Why you have malas with 108 is within the mysteries of Shiva. So to grasp how these things work is going to give you an insight to the structuring of the etheric field, the etheric plane. Now, let's just dance on dreams. I see we've been going for an hour and 13 minutes. Gosh, I wanted to wrap this up in an hour. I have too much fun here, guys. It's your fault. You guys get me all passionate because I can feel the energy of your consciousness, and I can feel that you guys are wired into these thoughts, and these thoughts are producing thoughts within your field of consciousness that is causing you to make realizations, and those realizations drive the thoughts in my head because our thoughts are not as separate as they seem to be. There is a fundamental web of connection between all of our thoughts. Even though I'm here and you're there and everybody's where you are, we are forming a group mind, an egregoric expression of thought. And so you guys catalyze my thoughts, and my thought catalyzes your thoughts. And it's like a wheel that just accelerates, turning faster and faster. Chakra. So where do dreams happen? Now, this is something that you can only understand with deep metaphysics. I discovered this by accident, right? The so-called lucid dream experience. And like I was becoming aware of my dreams. This is when I was a kid, right? And I was training, I was meditating every day. I was working hard. I had a Shian that taught me this Shian could affect objects outside of his body with his energy. I was like, wow, I want to learn to project my energy and break a thing at a distance. I want to learn to do that. To be able to put a piece of wood over there and break it with my key without touching it. I want to learn to do that, right? So, and our Shihan had this ability because he was a Shihan. That's a master. It's not a sensei. A Shihan means master, grandmaster. And they weren't that common. I was just lucky enough to meet one. And immediately he saw me and he pulled me aside, age 12. Said, "You must come to my sensei class." I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." Everybody was like, "What?" Everybody, even the senseis, were like frowning. It was my first day of going into the dojo. First day. He looks at me. He said, "You must come to that class." I'm like, "Okay." He just said to me, "The spirit is strong in you. You must come." So anyway, I went to the class and it's meditation. And he says, and before the class, he pulls me aside. He says to me, "Just do what we do. I just want you to learn to do this. I know that you're going to do this when you're at home. I can see you're going to go and apply this. This is going to help you." He's teaching us how to meditate. He's teaching us how to sit. He's teaching us how to focus on hara. He's teaching us how to concentrate, zazen, and how to apply zazen to the hara. So I'm an empty slate. I do what he says, how he says it, and then I do it every day diligently, morning and evening, every day. And so I was training, and I'd also been approached by gentlemen from Rosicrucian to pull me aside and say, "Well, you must come. We want to show you things." Okay. And explain to me, like, you've got this energy body, like you're unusual. We want to help you to develop. And I was awakening, becoming latent again at that time, after my psychic abilities had been sort of more dormant. They were becoming latent and things were happening around me, and I was spilling over energy. I mean, I was so latent that if I walked into a shop, if a microwave turned on, my consciousness could affect that microwave by accident and it would explode. And I once walked into one shop to accidentally cause a microwave to explode, to cross the road to go to another shop to buy food and accidentally cause another microwave to explode without touching the microwave. The moment I got to within a certain amount of feet of the microwave, it blew up. And I was so self-conscious. I mean, I was like, holy crap. I walked into the shop, a microwave was on. I was aware of that microwave, and I was feeling the energy of that microwave so intense in my body that it blew up. And I was so freaked out by this. I thought, I'm going to go to a different shop. This is a bit much. And I crossed the road to walk to a different shop. There's a microwave on in the shop, and the same thing happens. The microwave blows up. And, that was normal. Like walking under street lights, they would turn on and off above me. Wherever I walked, I was like, that's electrical stuff. I couldn't wear a watch. Electrical stuff would suddenly stop working when I was around, start working when I wasn't. It was like normal. So all of these things were like just part of my normal matrix, and becoming aware of extra dimensional beings and being able to communicate with beings that weren't in the physical, and realizing that I can affect people around me's thoughts with my thoughts, and realizing, oh, right. So I can be like really gorgeous. Like all the girls can find me beautiful if I project that I'm gorgeous. So I learned to project that I'm gorgeous, and all the women thought I was amazing. So it's like, you girls are so dumbass, man. I'm just creating the thought that I'm really attractive, and you all think I'm attractive. That's hilarious. But anyway, so like I was learning all of this stuff just as a 12-year-old, like as you do, because I accidentally had to activate my abilities because of glassy and because of things that were happening, non-physical things, and so beings came and taught me how to control my energy, and by doing that I opened a Pandora's box, and then things were out of control. So I attracted towards me people who could see the stuff was happening around me, and they were like guiding my training and my learning so that I could learn control of it, because they said you have to get to control these things, these abilities, because you don't have a choice. Most people don't have them, but because you drowned when you were a kid, you're stuck with them. So now you've got to learn to control them, and they're becoming more latent now, because this is your your etheric body has been formed and structured, and your astral body is rooted. So now it's starting to become manifestational. So anyway, stepping back from all of that, that's just like an idea into why. So I was practicing this training for years, and I noticed that my dreaming, like I could control my dream. And I was getting a bit frustrated. I was, well, what is the point of being in a dream if I can control the dream? I can, like, someone's coming and trying to say something to me, and I'm like I can control them. So I was like, what is the point of this if I can control everything in my dream? Like why am I wasting my time with this dream? And it was becoming frustrating for me. And then one day I thought to myself, you know what? In a dream, while I was dreaming, this is all just a dream. What if I wrap my mind around the whole dream, stretch my mind like a big elastic and wrap it around the whole dream and take control of every aspect of the whole dream all at once? I thought, wow, that sounds like fun. Let's do it. And I did it. And I stretched and 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 stretched until I found myself on the other side of this dream. And I was like, the whole dream was encapsulated. And I found myself like moving in, like permeating into the dream and sort of changing every aspect of the dream. And I noticed the dream started losing coherence, coherency. And it was like, it was losing like a structure that started to fall to pieces. And I was watching this dream fall to pieces. I was like, oh. And then it sort of lost its coherency, and it became like a spiral, and it like a toric field, it got absorbed into itself. And at the core of it being absorbed into itself, I was like, okay, right. Oh, I'm here. But hold on. Where am I? I'm not in the etheric field. Obviously, I had experienced etheric projection prior to this through my training, projecting outside of my body and being able to move around in this place and move through walls and oh, right, this is like when I was a kid. This is cool, man. Let's see where I can go, it was fun. But now I was somewhere else. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm like in this space. And I noticed that I wasn't in the etheric field, but I could see the etheric field. If I stretch my awareness that way, and if I stretch my awareness that way, there was like all this color. And I was like, I'm between two things. I'm like between two places. And I was like, interesting. But I just, let this go and let myself go, just fly up to that place. And then you're out. So when I noticed I could do this, then if a dream tried, I would like wrap myself around and the dream would just like dissolve. I'd be like, this is cool, man. So I can be anywhere. So I basically accidentally learned how to wrap myself around a dream and dissolve it, and then be where I was dreaming, and go, oh, right. So I come here when I'm sleeping to this space, and I create this vortex outside of myself somehow, and it covers me with this field where it pulls some of that quality and it pulls some of that quality, two different places, and mixes them together. Because when I dissolve the field, it's like a toric field. Some of it went there and some of it went there into its center. I was like, that's interesting. These two components. What are these two components? And then I realized what dreaming was. Dreaming is when we sit between the astral and the etheric field. And we're drawing some of the etheric substance, structure, and some of the qualities of the astral together and spinning a web for ourselves, an elusive web for us to experience. And so where does dreaming happen, right? Dreaming happens in the junction between the astral and the etheric. It's that very important point, space. It's where space meets quality, shall we say. And that's why in our dreams, there are qualities and there is structure. And depending on the mix of how much astral and how much etheric will dictate the nature of the dream. Some dreams are very coherent. Some dreams are very well structured. You're walking and everything's logical. It's almost like very physically real. Other dreams don't make any sense. They follow such abstract things that can't make sense in the physical reality because they're coming from more astral qualities. And these qualities shape the experience in such a way that it just doesn't make any sense. Those dreams are carrying more of the astral current in it. But where we're dreaming is between the two astral and the etheric fields. The waters above and the waters below. At that point where the waters meet, that is the essential place of dreaming. So this is why we're able to dream astral projection. We're able to dream etheric projection. Maybe I don't know if we can dream astral projection. In fact, everything is a dream. The whole structure of reality is a dream. Dream time. Everything's just dreaming. And that's what I realized when I passed away as a child, when I drowned. I woke up. I was like, ugh. I never went to sleep. I never lost consciousness. I traumatized, pain, agony, and then kicked out of my body and everything's vibrating. More and more and more and more. And I got kicked out of my body by the vibration. But I was awake the whole time. But I kept feeling in my awakeness that I was like yawning and waking up more and yawning and waking up more. And the faster the vibration got, the more I was yawning in my mind and waking up more, not physically yawning. And I felt this yawning, waking up, yawning, waking up. It's like a feeling, it's a quality. And the more that yawning, waking up feeling carried more faster, intense vibration, which was sound becoming louder and louder, the further I was getting from the physical world. So what I realized was like, oh, wow, that's just all a dream. And now I'm more awake than I was in that dream. In that dream, I was only so much awake. Now I'm this much more awake. I remember that weird experience of like, oh, that's just a dream. It's a different kind of dream to this dream. Interesting. This dream is different to that dream. So the very act of physicality is a kind of a dream, which is a structuring between the astral and the etheric. And where we create our own dreams when we're sleeping is in that space of the structure between the etheric and the astral. So are we creating some kind of an abstract little pocket universe for ourselves when we're dreaming? Absolutely. Something to think about. So when people are writing these books about astral projection and they're walking around and they walk upstairs, no, lucid dreaming. And honestly, 80-90% of every so-called story about astral projection that I've heard is essentially nothing more than lucid dreaming. Sorry to say, but that is, that is the reality of what we are facing and what we are dealing with. And so, I just want to, while I'm doing this, quickly make sure that I'm going to have enough space. Ladies and gentlemen, the boy's got to have space. Without enough space, how is he supposed to have a party? You need space to have a party, mate. Every good party needs a good bit of space. So I think like there's an important lesson for us to learn when we're considering, just let me download the audio of that before I delete it, so I can continue here. I think like there's this delusion about what astral projection is that has become mainstay of mainstream books, people talking about it, people reading about it, people making YouTube stories about it, but they don't have a background in it. Yeah, sure, they've had a few flashes in the pan, a few little experiences here and there, but they don't have a long-standing experiential record and track record and practice where every day they were learning to lift their consciousness out of the physical realm a little bit more through practice for like years and years and years, and then to be able to apply all the experiences over like decades with that training to be able to get like a systematic sort of understanding step by step of what's going on. No, people don't work that hard. People are lazy as hell. It takes hard work, man. Hard work. Do you know what it's like to wake up at 3:30 in the morning to start your meditation? Every morning? It's not easy. It takes discipline. At the moment, I'm not doing that, but I do meditate frequently, a lot, because of my work. I have to. It's part of my work. I have to go into trance. Working as a shaman full time, it involves constantly training, in a sense. So a big part of my daily day-to-day is just constantly working, training. But during my training phase, it was 3:30 in the morning, and that meditation is going to go on. Maybe till 8 a.m. Maybe 7:30, 7:45, 8 a.m. So you're meditating. That's it. Then you're going to do more exercises during the day, working with elemental energy. And then midday, you're going to have some more of a meditation session in the midday. Then in the later afternoon, there's going to be some more energy work that you're going to be doing and other kinds of work, going into trance work. Then when it comes to the evening period, meditation is going to start again, right? You want to be meditating for a good 1.5 hours before the sun starts to set, right? So if your sunset is like 6:30 or whatever, you want to be starting your meditation 4:30, which you then, or 5, depending on, time of day, time of season. Then you're going to be meditating until like 7:30, maybe 7:38, right? Plus you've been meditating in the middle of the day. You might also be waking up at midnight to meditate for an hour, breaking up your sleep so that you can channel in that time of the night. So like it involves, this is 7 days a week, man. This is hard work, right? You're tallying up your meditation hours in packs of 10,000 at a time. Like, how long does it take me to, you're calculating how much work you're doing so that you know that you're not dropping off. People don't do that. They don't have that drive to and that amount of time to pour into something. You've got to be full time. You can't do that part time. So all these people that are writing these books are just basically people that have had flashes in the pans, and they've had a couple of experiences, and it's all good and well, but it's not really going anywhere. So this is like important for us to grasp and to get an insight into these are experiential things that we have to figure out for ourselves. And the only way that we can, in truth, be able to make any sense out of this is if we totally devote ourselves and totally become focused and totally ground ourselves in the training of learning to go to that place where the pressure, where the paralysis is. And in a deep state of meditation, that paralysis is a normal part of the experience, right? This is something people also don't realize. They don't recognize that. They're not aware. I just want to see what's going on here. Okay, so we've downloaded that, which is cool. Which is really, really great. I don't really want to delete that. Ancestors, archetypes, demiurge within, esoteric messages from the heavens about disclosure. Yeah, that one. So, just to get into the nitty gritty, something that I want to point out to people. And I think this is really, really important because it gives us a sense of understanding the structure of space-time, is realizing that we are existing in all three of these places, right? We're existing in the causal field. That's our actual place of existence. That's what we realize when we pass away. But in the process of the causal field becoming this place, it has to divide and polarize. And the division and the repolarization of that division becomes a space through which the causal field can remanifest as above, so below. And that below remanifestation of the causal principle, which is the mentalist field, gives the structure of space and time that is in alignment below as with above, as the Hermetic paradigm goes. So this gives us like a real insight into understanding the structures and the structures of our consciousness field, and just exactly why our consciousness field is the way it is, right? So we don't really recognize all this is happening in the process of being here physically. But when we're understanding the etheric and the astral and dreams, we can get a sense of this reunification of these two polarizing potentials, which is the monad and the duad. The duad is that the potential, and that potential is bound to the vibration, and the vibration is the substance of the tree, the triad, right? And so the 1, the 2, and the 3, the trinity. The 3 is the structure of the tree, and the tree is structured by vibration. And the 2 is the polarization, the potential between the vibration and the monad, which is that corresponding potential. Why the monad can exist within itself and outside of itself without dividing itself. Right? And from this relationship of the potential between the monad and the triad, the tree, the vibration, comes a field of correspondences that reflect the vibrational field outwards to form all the numerations. And all the numerations then become part of the structuring of the sacred geometry of time-space. And so understanding how these fit together will give us an insight into understanding the differences between the etheric, the astral, and dream time. And so dream time is the fundamental structure of everything. This is deep shamanic core principles. And shamanism is very simple, right? Very simple as dream time. But it doesn't mean anything until you experience it. When you experience a dream time, you go like, oh my gosh, this is just dream time. Like, and when you realize this is dream time, then you realize that this dream is structured by other dreams, and that there are two dreams that are structuring this dream, and that you're dreaming both here but in two other places at the same time, and that those two dreams that you're experiencing are emanations from a fundamental dream. And so we then realize the underworld, the middle world, and the higher world, the three worlds of the shaman, which is Atzilut, Bria, and Yetzirah. And these three elements come together, the causal body, the astral body, and the etheric body. And by the interaction between Bria and Yetzirah, right? Between the interaction between these two fields comes into alignment the reflection of Atzilut, Isia, below the veil. And by the interaction between the etheric and the astral field, which is building a reconstituted structure of the causal field, comes the physical reality below the veil, as above, so below. So, you know, both the Vedic and the Western cosmological models are looking at exactly the same reality. And being able to keep this in perspective is really useful. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this little tongue waggle, sending you all so much love, peace, and blessings. Take it easy. Keep smiling. Keep it sweet. Don't forget that life is just a beautiful symphony. And, you know, it's important to not get lost in the soup. Otherwise,